Welcome, everyone. Here we are in a conversation from the Human Animal Spiritual Network. And there are 5 of us girls today. And the topic is Signs from the Other Side, Afterlife Communications with the Animals and Nature. So we're each going to share a little piece about our experience with this topic. So here we go. You want to start, Donna?
I do. My name is Donna. I am an animal communicator and also a classical homeopath. But this story doesn't so much involve homeopathy. A long time cat client developed a very serious ear infection. And so she went blind, she went deaf, and she was a trooper. So she lasted a while. Lots of medication. This woman chose not to use homeopathy. And so it was time for her to leave. And interestingly, the woman did not call me to have a conversation with the cat. She said, it's time. And so she put her cat down, but she was just devastated. I mean, she texted me more in the time that she had put her cat down than she did in all of the 12 years that I'd been working with her. And so, the cat was communicating from the other side, and yes, I love you, and yes, I'm with you. And, she just couldn't get through the grief. So I said, longtime client, I'm going to do a blog post in tribute for her life. And, I'll put it on my website. And she was so thrilled with that. So I write the blog post. I'm writing the blog post. And the cat's name was Lula May. And I'm describing what happened to her in her life and how she was a very vocal, master spirit kind of cat. And so a few weeks after her passing, I get another call from a woman in New Jersey who lost her cat. And she said, can you find my cat? You found my other friend's cat. And she's been gone for 2 weeks. So lost animals is a thing for me. It used to be in my early days of working. I used to do it more, but I take a referral and I said, it's a difficult thing to find a cat. I said, I can tell you that she's alive, and she's telling me that she got lost in the woods because she was out exploring. But I can't really tell her turn left, turn right. It's just, I don't do too many of them and much anymore. But I do have a possible solution. I work with what I call the band of spirits, which I created a while back because I had an animal that needed help from the other side. So I just summoned every animal spirit that I had ever spoken to. And I said, help this cat. So I said, my horse is the leader of the band, and there are some master spirits in the band. And if this cat is meant to come home, they'll bring him in. They'll bring him home. And then I hang up the phone and I'm not thinking, so I'm like, I say, sweetie, the band, and I start naming the members of the band that I thought should, bring the cat home. And Lula May was one of them. 9 hours. Oh, and by the way, let me back up because this is really the key to the story. I can't believe I left this out. When she put her Lula May down, she's a classical artist in New York, and she played Claire de Lune as the cat was oh my God, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen because she sent me the video. And I said, Elizabeth, it's an incredible, it really helped her really go to the other side. And she said, yeah, it was great. It's great. So then this lost cat happens, and I say, I'm going to bring the band in, and I name, and Elena's cat was actually one of them. 9 hours later, this woman in New Jersey calls me. She said, Kiko's home. And I'm like, there was nobody really more surprised than me. And while I'm reading this email, Pandora's playing Claire de Lune. And it just was such a moment because I had been trying to get that Claire de Lune on my Pandora since I heard it as she was passing, and I couldn't do it. 9 hours later, And I was like, you're not going to believe this. And so everybody, the two women whose cat was lost, didn't believe in animal communication. Somebody told her to call me, and she said, I try my and so they became believers. And the woman who owned Lula was like, that's my girl. And so everyone was just transformed by this little experience. Little, I think it was quite big. And so now the Band of Spirits are going to do another blog post about what they've done and how much they actually help in my work. So that's just the story that until this day I think about it, and it's so delightful. When you connect with a spirit from the other side, it's so uplifting and so confirming that life actually does continue, and that these spirits, when they say they're going to be present, they actually are. So that was my share for today.
That was fabulous.
It was such a
Donna.
great moment.
Donna's been laughing for quite a while as she thought about this story because it was so great for her. So I see why. Thank you, Donna.
And joyful is
It
it?
was so joyful.
Yeah.
So who else would like to speak? Okay, I'll go.
Next.
So I have a story too. This is a couple who have a cat. His name's Georgie. And they came to me 5 years ago because Georgie had been living in the garage. They set up this wonderful area for him in the garage, but he'd been in the garage for years, and because he would pee all over the house. And they loved this cat and they wanted him in the house. So they called me in, and you never know if you're going to be able to help. And anyway, we had a session, and it was quite a little process. I just listened to the recording again. This is 5 years ago. And what happened was, their names, Francie and Bill, they had a cat in the house. A female, her name was AJ, and she was a very bossy cat. She was like the dominator of the house. And she was intimidating. And Georgie's a sensitive guy, and she would intimidate him, and he got pissed off. So he started peeing all over the place. Well, AJ died. This is 2.5 years later, and Georgie's still in the garage because every time they brought him in, he would pee all over everything. So what happened during the session is I communicated with Georgie, and Francie and Bill were sitting there, and Francie's really intuitive too, so it was really helpful. It's really helpful when people can participate in this whole process. And what we found out is that AJ's essence was still in the house. Her presence was still in the house, even though she died 2.5 years before. And all of a sudden, Francie says, oh my God, her ashes are still in the house. So anyway, what we did is we cleared AJ's energy out of the house and lovingly told her, and Francie was talking to her too, saying, we really love you, but you need to get out of here. You need to go on. And so we all sent her to the light and let her go. And then all of a sudden, I felt like Georgie needs to come in the house. He was outside looking in the sliding glass window. He'd been outside all this time. And Francie said, oh, yeah, I got the same feeling. So we brought him in the house, and he sat with the three of us on the couch, and we're petting him, and he's rolling around and purring. And we told him, no more peeing in the house, because if you do it, you're going to have to leave. And he said, well, I might have a relapse or two. And I said, no, you're not. It's all or nothing. You're in the house to stay, and you're not peeing, or you get out of here. Well, he stopped. He stopped peeing. And Francie and Bill were so good with him, and they paid really close attention for the next few days, and they cuddled him and they watched him. He didn't pee again. So that tells me that this was true and AJ's energy was truly in the house. I just had another session with these people 5 years later. Georgie's now 18 years old. And he hasn't been peeing in the house until recently, and he's not peeing in the house, but he's kind of missing his litter box, and that's why they called me. And they were afraid he had dementia, and he's starting dementia, and Francie was afraid he just didn't know what he was doing. But that was not the case. What he told me, and I'm just finishing the story here, it's kind of off topic, but what he told me is that his hind end was kind of weak and it was hard for him to get into the litter box now, so he would kind of miss. And we decided that they were going to build a bigger litter box so that he could, with lower sides, so he could get in. And she just now sent me a picture of this bigger litter box. All it is a plastic tub with litter in it, and there's two pee spots in the litter box. So anyway, that's my story about animals in the afterlife. It's not always a fun, loving, positive story like Donna's, but it's something to be aware of that they can stay around for a while. Okay, that's it.
Nice. I'll go next.
I'll go next because it's sort of related.
Oh, wait,
to
Linda just offered.
Oh, no, that it doesn't matter.
Okay, you guys figure it out.
Would you go ahead?
Okay, so I'm Dr. Christina Chambreau, and I'm occasionally able to communicate, but most of my stories are from clients who are telling me about working with animal communicators. And I always encourage people at least twice a year to communicate, to have an animal communicator / intuitive check in on their cats and dogs. And so one of the women that I used, that I often recommended was a local animal communicator in Baltimore. And Terry was dealing with some health issues of her own, and she was moving towards probably needing to transition herself. And she had several cats, but one was a particularly soulmate with her. And this cat became ill and died. And yet, Terry missed her so much. It was like she was such her soulmate. And along with several other communicators, and I think Terry also did a lot of Reiki, they all realized, I forget the cat's name. I'm going to say Luna. And they started communicating with Luna, who had passed. And Luna said, I will come back to be with you until you transition, Terry. And I will be in this local shelter, and I will come in another body. And each time that she came into another body, she would tell them, but then by the time they got to the shelter, that cat had been adopted out to somebody else, that physical body. And so Luna would leave that body and hang around. So finally, Luna got very creative. And Luna said, okay, come to the shelter, and then I will go into another cat's body once you arrive. So I won't get adopted by anybody else. So they show up at the shelter and they're walking through, and all of a sudden they realize, here, this cat now has Luna's spirit. And Luna came back and lived with Terry until Terry died. And then all of the cats had homes lined up. She had lined up everything. And so she was able to come back and be with Terry. That's my story.
Very sweet. Thank you.
Okay. Another story. I came into this world very connected to animals and nature. And what I learned since childhood is the power of these experiences that animals offer us about what's going on in this dimension, but what is really going on outside of this dimension. It's a dimension that uh, we have access to, even if we don't understand. And I want to mention that I had on my website a site for people to send in their stories, unexplained powers of animals, because I find that in our culture, these stories that we're so lovingly sharing here today, our monkey mind comes in and says often, oh, this isn't real. Don't pay attention to this. You're fooling yourself. And by sharing these stories, by sharing the ones I read on my website, it's enabling this beyond the fifth, beyond these dimensions to come alive in us. And most of my stories, and why I love this topic we're doing today and we did previously, is that so many of my stories, I would say almost 80% of my unexplained powers of animal stories, involve the death, the reincarnation, the passing, the coming back of our pets and our beloved animals. But I'd like to share a story that I personally experienced. And if I have time, I'll mention another hilarious short one. But I want to share a story that involves nature. And my beloved cat, Whimsy, was 18 years with me. He was, quote, my soulmate. He went through boyfriends, a husband. I judged everything. If at vet school, I judged everything through Whimsy. I couldn't even conceive of being without this beloved cat. Well, we moved into a home and I went outside and I looked at the garden, and it was a beautiful 5-acre natural setting. And there was an enormous pine tree in the backyard, but the yard had been neglected and needed work. And I was pondering, where do I begin? What should I do out here? And I was amazed that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I heard this booming, I don't want to say voice, but I just knew this pine tree was pissed off and so powerfully said, get these out of here. Well, they were all scraggly bushes that were underneath the tree, obviously choking it. And I just jumped back. There was no doubting this. And I said, okay. And I did. Well, 6 years go by. And I really never heard from the tree again. I knew the presence, but nothing went on. Well, my Whimsy was 18, suffering from chronic renal failure, and I was in denial. And I had a real problem letting him pass. Well, finally, the day came, and he died peacefully, sitting on my lap. I had music on. But what was so bizarre to me, it happened to be my daughter's 5th birthday. And I thought to myself, this was before he crossed. He was sitting there and I was cuddling him. And I said, well, I don't understand why, this is so sad. Why would you do this? And I never got an answer. And then he passed. My husband made a beautiful little box. I didn't want to cremate him. He was so in love with the yard and the land. He never went out, but all day he would sit and gaze at the landscape. And so he passed. And as I was holding the box, I heard him say, or communicate to me energetically, don't you understand? I had to leave, but I left you with your beautiful daughter that you adore, Jamie. And then I understood what an amazing gift that was to me, and how I would never in a million years have thought something so profound. He had to explain it to me. So the following morning, I went outside and it was cold. It was really cold. And I thought, oh, I was so sad. And I held him and I said, oh God, I don't know where to put you. I don't know where to lay your body. And I heard that booming voice come back and in the most loving tone say, almost as if the limbs were expanding, I have space here with me. I will take care of him. I rarely ever tell that story, but it's still so. This was many years ago and it still brings tears to my eyes. But I wanted to share it with you guys. And I'm not sure if I have a minute or two left, but there's a really, no. I think we'll leave it at that, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. That was beautiful. On many levels, huh?
Yeah. No, I never underestimate the power of the choreography. And you know, as Donna was saying too, there's so much going on, more than we begin to know or understand. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Oh, we have a request for you to share the hilarious story, but try to make it brief.
Oh, this is a story from one of my stories. Very brief. I can tell it very quickly. A woman loved her cat, was crazy about the cat, believed in all these things, communication, reincarnation, all that. Well, she had a dear friend who was a police officer, and they used to visit, they were neighbors. And she'd come over, and the friend would say, oh, come on, you know, you're being ridiculous. There's none of this stuff going on. It's all your imagination, blah, blah, blah. Well, as it happened, the cat one day passed away, and the woman was so sad. And the friend came over and was trying to be helpful, and it's okay, you know, I'm here, it's all right, it was a cat, he's gone. And then she walked across the room, this is the friend, walked across the room into the next room, and suddenly tripped over something. And whoa, and the woman who lost the cat said, what the heck is the matter with you? And she said, oh my God, I just tripped over your cat. The cat appeared for these two women.
Pretty good.
That's it.
So wonderful.
You have something, Angela?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela. I'm a veterinarian, mostly relating to end of life. So just like an overview of all of that is like there's just countless stories of people feeling their cat on them after they've gone, just for one last snuggle or hearing them purr, little dogs, nail sounds around the floor for a few days after. The stories are countless. People, um, and I think it's becoming almost normal and wanted because certain animals will have come before and communicated with them in various ways. My story relates to my own dog, Bells, who decided to leave the earth plane with lung cancer. And she wanted to die naturally without assistance. Um, and she was getting, oh, I should back up. Prior to the diagnosis, I was just starting my business and she was doing well. And I just wrote the breeder. Oh my God, she's great. She's running around. She's 10 years old, not showing arthritis. And I ended up making cards. And one of the cards that I had drawn up was this beautiful picture in Haida Gwaii of her staring at a rainbow. And so I thought that would make a beautiful card for people who have lost their pets. At this point, she was of course, very much alive, running around, telling the breeder she's doing great. Within a month, she started having symptoms. And I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't have used her on the card. And I ended up, she was getting sicker and sicker, and I brought her to Saskatchewan, where the temperatures are often very cold. The day after she died, I woke up to what's called a sundog, which is when it's really, really cold, the sun will come up and there'll be rainbows around the sun. And I knew she was sending me that because I had thought often about how potentially I should, oh, sorry, my dogs. Potentially I shouldn't have used rainbows with her and maybe caused the fate of her death. And I think she was reassuring me that she just needed to go. And I was so happy. As well as that, she appeared in my dreams, and I was so excited because my previous dog had never showed up in my dreams. And it's often people report that it's a little bit different than a dream. Dreams always seem a little bit blurry, um, just hard to kind of pin down, but visitation dreams are always clear. They are just absolutely clear. You always remember them. And she was walking along with me with beans in one dream, and then the next dream was really cool where she was just across the way and standing, and just her and a bear were facing each other. So at that point I looked up what bear meant, and was given a gift from her, um the bear totem, and I really appreciated it, and it was so confirming that life goes on. I already knew that. I already really believed in my heart that it did, that it does, that we always go on and continue, and we continue to have a relationship, just a different one because they're not in their physical body. But so beautiful that she shared that with me. So thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
very good.
I want one of those cards, Ange.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
Elena, would you like to share something?
Yes, thank you. I've had experiences with both my first beloved dog, who was very much my soulmate, and a beloved cat, as well as another dog, but I'll just tell briefly as I can about the dog, first of all. The minute I got him, he came in as a really special being. I didn't connect with him much at first, actually, because I'd never had a dog, but he became truly my soulmate. And the story is about both before, during, and after his passing when he was 15 years old. Before he passed, he was quite ill and couldn't walk well by then. I have shared before in another recording about how in the day or so before his death, all these creatures came around the house. A frog on the front pathway and a hummingbird that came right up to the kitchen screen door where I was sitting with him on the floor. And also, it just seemed extremely unusual. And I read later that these creatures were all connected somehow to transformation and transitions. And I really felt truly sure that these were messages to him, I guess, or greeting him for the journey ahead in some way. And before he died, most of his life, he had a strange affinity for four-leaf clovers. Everywhere, I would be picking up his poop, or he'd be lying on the grass and a four-leaf clover would appear. I mean, I have a collection of them, and this has never happened with any other dog I've had. It was amazing. And then the days before he passed, I'd take him out and he couldn't walk, so we would lie down sometimes to do his business. And I suddenly looked down and there was four-leaf clover right in the middle of his flank. And when he passed, the vet had come, and I was holding him, and as I shared, I felt his energy leaving his body in a spiral, and I felt that I was going with him. I could feel the energy. I was in the spiral. It was so an experience I'll never forget. But I did come back. And afterwards, of course, I was devastated, and I thought, oh, well, you know, the connection is not here. He's not here physically. How will I have the connection with him endure? And certainly with the help of Donna and animal communicators, these amazing messages came relating where and how I scattered his ashes in the ocean, where I was sitting very precisely, not on the beach, but on a small hill over the beach, where I went afterwards to a restaurant where the fireplace was smoking. I mean, how could this possibly be known by anyone? It was all true. And further messages continued, of course, about saying, you know, he was near me in the house, describing details like he was lying near a corner, place where I worked, where there was wood trim on the baseboard. I mean, how could, and it's true, or how he liked to lie in the dining room, which had yellow paint, and more profound messages about what was going on in my life. So, in short, I had no doubt that he endures in spirit, and I connect with him every day. And it opened me to, as everybody has said, to the existence and the truth of other dimensions to existence that we don't experience in physical reality and material reality every day. I mean, it was obviously a great realization for me. And if I have time, I'll just tell about my cat also. My dog loved cats, so I got him for this first dog. He also was a special being. And after he passed, he appeared, as other people noted. I saw him walking around the corner of the bed. His image appeared oddly, suddenly on the bathroom floor where his litter box had been. Never had seen that before, and it was it's on Donna's website, actually. His image on this floor, and shortly after disappeared again. Has never appeared since then to me. But I clearly felt that was Kismet appearing for me. So it was another affirmation that their energy and their essence endures, and they're still with us, and that for all of us, physical passing does not mean the end of our essence, our spirits.
Thank you, Elena. Very sweet. So I think that's it. We've heard from everybody. I forgot to say who I am. My name is Barbara Shore. I'm a veterinarian and animal communicator. And thank you all for listening. I hope this is helpful for you, and that you'll start to pay more and more attention to these things. It's really fun. Thank you. Bye-bye.